Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to do the mid-year book Freakout tag. So this is a tag I have done every single year that I've been on BookTube. I think it is a great way to keep track of how your reading has been going for the first half of the year, and going into the second half of the year. It was created by Shami and Ellie here on BookTube. I will leave the links to both of their channels in the description below. But I'm just gonna answer a few questions about some of my favorite books of the year, some favorite characters, maybe some least favorite books and characters. If you're interested in all of that and hearing some of my thoughts about how my reading year has been thus far in 2017, you're in the right place. So let's just get started and jump right in on the first question. So question one is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2017? As I'm going to do with most of these questions, I have two answers. First of all, We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson. I feel like you have all heard me talk a whole lot about We Are the Ants because I love it so very much. It was such a out of nowhere kind of book that I didn't really think I was going to love it, and then it immediately became one of my new favorite books. I wanted to reread it instantly. It had one of the best YA families that I've read in a long time. It was emotional and complex, totally unlike anything I've ever read before. I just absolutely fell in love with it. And the second thing I'm going to answer for this question is Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. Now, when I got this book, I was pretty sure I was going to like it. It is about a queer Puerto Rican girl. It is about feminism and queer spaces, POC spaces. I knew I was going to like it, but it is one of those books that I read the first page, and I knew from page one it was going to be a book I wasn't going to forget for a really long time. It's sharp and interesting and well written, and it just explores all of these topics so well. I felt like I was marking my favorite parts every other page with highlights on my e-reader. I really, really want my own hard copy so that I can mark that up with as many post-its as I possibly can. It was just an absolutely superb book. Question number two, what is the best sequel that you have read so far in 2017? So, of course, I have two answers. The first of which is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I liked ACOTAR, but when I read Asimov, I was just completely blown away that this was the same series and the same universe, because it improved upon the first book so strongly. The amount of character development in this book is like off the charts, and while I kind of liked the characters in the first book, the way that they all developed in the second book just made me care about every single one of them so deeply. It's really rare that I care about main characters and all of the side characters in a book, but I do. I care about this entire gang of people. I still haven't read the third book yet, but Asimov was just an incredible sequel. The other sequel that I loved was A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is the second book in the Shades of Magic series, which I love. This one took a little bit to get started, and I was really worried when I was reading the first half it wasn't going to live up to the first book and how much I loved that one, but it knocked it out of the park at the end of this book. There was so much happening. It was so jam-packed with stuff and characters, new characters. Oh my god, Alucard. Is that how we say his name? Alucard? Because he's amazing. He's amazing. This book should have taken me a really long time to get through. It's 500 pages, and it's, you know, it's adult fantasy, but I flew through it, and I just really enjoyed it. And I haven't read the third book in this series yet either, which is killing me. Question three, a new release you haven't read yet, but that you really want to. So first I have Your Welcome Universe. This is by Whitney Gardner. I think it came out in March. I've had it since March. I got it for my birthday at that point, and I've heard really good things about it, and I really want to read it. I also haven't read Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab yet, which is the sequel to This Savage Song. I read This Savage Song last year, enjoyed it. It isn't my absolute favorite Victoria Schwab book. That probably goes to A Darker Shade of Magic, but this was a great first half of a series, and I really want to read Our Dark Duet and finish off whatever's going to happen with these characters. Question four, most anticipated releases for the rest of the year. I have a couple. First of all, Not Your Villain by C.B. Lee. I am just dying to get my hands on this. There's also Echo After Echo by Amy Rose Capetta, which sounds fabulous. 27 Hours by Tristina Wright, and A Line in the Dark by Melinda Lowe. These were all books that I was anticipating at the beginning of the year, and now all have covers. How beautiful are all the covers, first of all, but also I really want to read all of them. Question 5, what was your biggest disappointment so far this year? And I have to go with The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. Now, I didn't give this book like a terrible rating. I think I gave it a 3.5. It was only disappointing because this was set up to be one of my all-time favorite series. I gave both of the first book glowing 5-star reviews, and then this book just fell kind of flat in the series for me. It ended on a note that I really, really hated. And this whole book in general was pretty good. It was just this end bit that I felt like kind of ruined what had been happening for the rest of the series for me. So it's not like I just hated this book. It's just that it was such a letdown after how much I had loved the others in the series. Question 6, what was your biggest surprise? For this, I absolutely have to say Noteworthy by Riley Redgate, which I just read last month. This is a YA contemporary with a main character who cross-dresses so that she can be a part of the men's a cappella group. None of these things are things that I would normally like, and then everything about this book was practically perfect. It was hilarious. It had this really fabulous, diverse group of side characters who were all likable and interesting, and they all just had these relationships that felt so authentic to me. The main character just has this narrative voice that pulled me in, and I fell in love with her for it, and I fell in love with the rest of them, and I never expected to love this book as much as I do, but it's probably going to be one of my favorite books at the end of the year too, which is completely unexpected. Question 7, favorite new author. This can be a debut author or just an author who's new to you. So first of all, I have to mention again Sean David Hutchinson, author of We Are the Ants. He was new to me, not a debut author, but I know after reading We Are the Ants, I have to read more of his books. I also have to shout out Angie Thomas, who is the author of The Hate You Give. This was a debut, and it was an absolutely incredible debut. I can't even imagine coming out this strong as like a first-time published author. This book spent so many weeks at the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And it's totally deserved. This book got me to laugh on one page, sob on the next. It got me to fall in love with all of these different characters. It was an excellent political commentary and an intervention in the time that we live in. It was incredible, and I cannot wait to read more by Angie Thomas. And I also wanted to shout out Laura Elena Donnelly, who is the author of Amberlow. This was also a debut. This book came out back in February. I saw a few people reading it here and there, but not too many, and I think it deserves a lot more attention than it got. It's this like fast-paced spy novel that takes place in an alternate kind of 1930s Berlin. It's sexy and funny and just really engrossing. And while this is not going to be one of my like favorite books of all time, I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it didn't get enough attention, and it was such a creative way to start out in the publishing industry, and I cannot wait to see what she does next. Question 8, newest fictional crush. As I've said in both of my previous videos, I don't really crush on fictional characters, at least not ones in books, so these are just like ladies that I would crush on, probably, if I knew them, and if I didn't already have a lovely girlfriend who I adore and already takes up all of my heart, frankly. First of all, Jack from Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. This is a companion to Every Heart a Doorway, which was one of my favorite books of last year. Jack is one of the two main characters. They're twin sisters, and she's just like this mad scientist's assistant, and she's quiet but also funny and passionate, and she's great. And then I also have to mention Cass from The Abyss Surrounds Us by Emily Skrutsky. Cass is the main character. She trains reckoners, which are basically sea monsters, and she's amazing. She's just like so compassionate, but then she also knows how to fight for herself, and I don't know. Both of these ladies are really great, plus they're both queer, so I mean, that just makes it all the better. Question 9, newest favorite character. So first I have to go with Juliet from Juliet Takes a Breath. I just thought that Juliet was one of the most fascinating and complex female characters I've ever read. She was funny and smart and constantly interrogating the world around her, and she loved the people that she was around, and there are just so many things that made Juliet an endearing and wonderful character. And then I also have to shout out Molly Peskin-Suso, the main character character of The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. I connected to Molly really strongly as far as feeling in high school like you are just so behind and you will never catch up on the ways that everyone around you is developing. I just related so strongly to her anxieties and to her fears and the way that she kind of refuses to talk about the things that are upsetting her. For me, Molly was just this deeply relatable character as I was reading this book, and that is probably why she's going to stick with me too. Question 10, a book that made you cry. Obviously The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Like I said, I would just like laugh and then sob on the next page, and I sobbed multiple times while I was reading this book. It's the kind of book you go in knowing you're gonna sob during, but you do it anyway, and it's a cry-worthy read. Also, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I cried multiple times through this one, but I mean, this is a book about grief, so it makes sense that you cry during this book. There would be these monologues where the main character was trying to work through her emotions and feelings about grief, and it just hit me so hard, and I really sobbed through this one as well. Question 11, a book that made you really happy. So if we're gonna go back to one, The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli made me so happy. I spent most of that book grinning. Also, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Volume 1, forgetting the name of Volume 1 right now, but it was the most fun I've had reading a comic series in a long time. It was just so lighthearted and enjoyable, and I really appreciate stuff like that. I like when stuff can just be happy and positive and wonderful. I grinned when I was reading this one too. And finally, I have to mention Binge by Tyler Oakley because I cried laughing multiple times while reading this book. I love Tyler and I watch his videos all the time on YouTube and they make me laugh. This had me in pain. I was laughing so hard. Question 12, the most beautiful book you have bought or received so far this year. Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner. This definitely goes on the list. It's beautiful outside, but there's also a bunch of art inside by the author that I think makes it beautiful as well. Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab, because I think this is a gorgeous, gorgeous cover to complete the series. I love all three covers, and I think that this just gets it. It just gets the series. I love it. And finally, what is my most recent purchase? The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This is beautiful on the front. I have loved the cover for months. It has a beautiful spine, and it even has a beautiful spine, like, under the cover. Like, look at this. Look at how beautiful it is. All three of these books are honestly just such winners in terms of aesthetic. Question 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So as far as what I need to read, I have to finish everything on my top 15 to read in 2017 list. I'm not going to tell you all of those, but I'll give you a couple. There is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I know, I've never read Six of Crows, but I gotta read it before the end of the year. There's Stiletto by Daniel O'Malley, which is the sequel to The Rook. I've really wanted to read this one. It's gonna happen, but first I have to reread The Rook. And then I also have to read Where Am I Now by Mara Wilson, which is a memoir that I think I'm going to love. And finally, question 15, who is your favorite book community member? And I have a few answers for this. I'm just gonna shout out some of my favorite people here on BookTube. So there's Dylan of Dylan the Reader 5. His channel is great, but honestly, he's also hysterical on Twitter, and we constantly talk over there. There's also Sylvia of Wish Fulfillment, who constantly has something insightful to say about books that I'm interested in reading, or that I have read, or that I never would have heard of if not for her. There's Nicole of Wolf's Whistle. I do not ever leave one of her videos without finding a new queer book that I want to read in the future. Lala of the channel Books and Lala, who has always been one of my favorite booktubers. She constantly impresses me with the content that she puts out, but also like the visuals of her content are so impressive. And Kristen from the channel Super Space Chick, who reads more than I could ever dream to read in a month. She constantly does fabulous nerdy videos and is just like the most positive person. There are lots more book community members that I love, but I just had to shout out a few of my absolute favorite people here on BookTube. Okay guys, there you go. That was the mid-year book Freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my reading progress thus far this year. If you want to answer any of these questions, please do so down in the comments below. Also in the comments below, please shout out your favorite book community member. Share the love around, whether that's Bookstagram, someone bookish on Twitter, a book blog, or someone here on BookTube. Share all of those down in the comments below so that we can all find new people to follow and love here on bookish internet world. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!